A cultura é um dos mais preciosos instrumentos de democracia. É um canal de expressão plural que permite a convivência de diferentes vozes, histórias e visões de mundo. E por isso a cultura, tal qual a democracia, deve ser defendida e fortalecida. Essa é a função da Lei Rouanet, a principal política pública de incentivo à cultura brasileira. Com ela, perseguimos a missão de assegurar o acesso democrático à produção e à difusão cultural. Ao longo de mais de 3 décadas, a Rouanet permitiu que inúmeras iniciativas culturais, antes inviáveis, ganhassem o mundo. Revelou histórias, preservou tradições e transformou vidas. Lei Rouanet, há 33 anos tornando a cultura brasileira mais plural, acessível e democrática.
Casal de dançarinos se olham sorridentes. Uma banda orquestrada para de tocar. Logos, Lei Rouanet, Ministério da Cultura, Governo Federal, Brasil, União e Reconstrução.
Onde tem cultura, a Vale está. No poder criativo que nasce dos palcos, orquestras, das artes, das ruas e dos museus. Na valorização das diversas identidades brasileiras e na preservação de memórias. É valorizando a cultura que crescemos e evoluímos juntos. Instituto Cultural Vale.
Ministério da Cultura e a Associação Casa Azul apresentam 23ª FLIP, Festa Literária Internacional de Paraty. A FLIP conta com o benefício da Lei Federal de Incentivo à Cultura, Lei Rouanet, PRONAC 235060, e possui acessibilidade para pessoas com deficiências física, visual e auditiva. Tem patrocínio Jequitibá do Nubank. Patrocínio Figueira da Vale. Patrocínio Guapuruvu do Itaú e da Motiva, por meio do seu instituto. Patrocínio Cedro do SESC, da MAC Móveis e de O Globo. Patrocínio Araribá, da Globo Livros. Apoio institucional da Prefeitura de Paraty, Governo do Estado do Rio de Janeiro, IFAM, Instituto do Patrimônio Histórico e Artístico Nacional e Museu do Território. É uma criação e realização Associação Casa Azul e Ministério da Cultura, Governo Federal, Brasil, União e Reconstrução. FLIP, o encontro da literatura com a cidade.
gostei de mato, sabe? Passear, eu gostava muito de passear para as matas, tirar as coisas. Todo mundo que eu trabalho, quase todo mundo pergunta se eu sou índio, porque eu trabalho com essas coisas. Eu faço a peneira, faço o cesto, faço a esteira. Eu faço chá, faço xarope das medicinas, né? Tem um xarope, a gente faz um xarope muito bom, com folha, muitos tipos de folha, né? E era minha mãe, era minha avó, era tudo, eu gostava desse negócio de ervas, essas coisas assim. E dava muito negócio de fazer de erva. A minha mãe fazia, minha avó. O pessoal antigo usava muito negócio de chá, né? Antigamente quase não tinha médico.
Que eu aprendi com a minha avó, né? A minha avó era garrafeira, a minha avó era parteira. Ela mostrava, ó meu filho, isso aqui serve para banho. Para banho, quando a mulher está com dor, para ter criança, isso aqui é remédio. Esse aqui é remédio para bronquite. Esse aqui é remédio para isso. Eu fui aprendendo do meu pai. O meu avô era raizeiro, eu me considero como raizeiro. Isso aqui é para me provar que a natureza ensina a gente a viver, igual as pessoas antigas.
Afternoon, Parati. Before we start, some housekeeping announcements, because then I'm really moved and I forget. First, we receive the questions when we finish our sessions. If you don't have a piece of paper in your chairs, ask the girls and boys here, the team that supports us and whom I thank. And to those of you outside in the square, you can also write down your questions and ask our authors. And afterwards, they will leave the tent and sign their books at the library. So take advantage of this fantastic opportunity. This table is called All Forms: prose, poetry, short stories, narratives, poetry, different kinds of genres, with two authors that were born 3,500 kilometers from one another. Mar is from the south of Rio Grande do Sul, and Monique from northern Belém in northern Brazil. So across the country from north to south, you'll see that they have a lot of things in common. Our mediator is Nanni Rios, but before she arrives, Nanni is a book owner, and she daily works with her small bookshop. She's a fantastic curator. She organizes events in Porto Alegre. Her bookstore is called Baleia the Whale, and she's always working. And when I see her in social media, I tell people, go to bookstores. Bookstores are the foundation, the contact of people. The publishing market, the industry needs people buying books from stores. Go to bookstores. Nanni? Good evening. I won't be alone up here. Monique, Malcher, and Becker, come join me. Oh, I almost cried because Anna, thank you so much. I'm Nanni Rios from Baleia Bookstore. I'm a bookseller, and I'm here with two writers I really admire. I introduce them quickly. Becker, she was born in Passo Fundo in Rio Grande do Sul, but she lives currently in São Paulo. She's an author of 5 books. 5. Submerged Women, Sal, Canção de Rita, Cova Profunda, and the Book of Strange Women, and Canção de Rita, and Night Devoured. Do you wanna say hi to everybody? I was going to ask for the mic, and then I remembered that I have the mic.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is such a warm welcome by Anna, Nanni, Monique. I'm so happy to be here with you.
E aqui é o centro. Muito bem.
And here in the middle, just give me a hand. I'm holding the mic here. Okay, so here to my right, Monique Malcher. She was born in Santarém in Pará. She currently lives in São Paulo. She's a writer, visual artist, journalist and the book that I will introduce today, one of her books that she launched, which is Degola Beheaded. And she also painted the cover. Wow, congratulations. And Monique is also the author of the book Flor de Gumi. I will show them all. Flor de Gumi was the winner of Jabuti Award in the short story category in 2021. Do you want to say hi? Yes. Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to be here this afternoon. Thank you, Anna, for the invitation. And I'm really moved. I'm really moved by your invitation. I'm very happy to be here with Mar. It's not only a professional friendship, but it's a life friendship as with you, Nanni. We're friends for life, and this really moves me. And I wanted to thank the fact that I was invited to be part of this table, especially for all of the women that brought me to this place. It's like I'm sitting here on my own, but not. Actually, I'm sitting here with Nubia Malcher, that is here with me, my mom, Nubia. Nubia Malcher. I wanted to kick off with one comment, which is, of course, a congratulations for the curatorship of this literary festivity. We have two writers, as Anna mentioned, from two distant locations here in Brazil, and literary criticism has named Deep Brazil. But this is not a regional literature table. No, it's not. And I wanted to congratulate Anna's sensitivity for not trapping these writers in this drawer, even though, due to their characteristics, their region where they come from is very dear to their writing. But that does not restrict them, does not define them. They're not only that type of writer. So that's one clarification for this table. And there are so many topics. It's really difficult to choose where I'll begin. But I read an interview with Monique, and she said that when she handed Degola Beheaded, she was afraid that she would die. And I thought that was so interesting. I remembered another dear writer that has passed away, Eloisa Teixeira. When we would talk during the pandemic, we had a call once, and she launched 4 books in 1 year. It was amazing. I mean, so much production. And I said, my God, how do you make it? Well, I'm afraid to die. And then we laughed. I thought it was a joke, but she was serious. She said, it's serious. There are things that happened. Eloisa wrote in the heat of inspiration, and there are things that I have witnessed, few people have witnessed, things that nobody has seen, and we need to register this. It's not in canon, it's not in history, and I'm scared to die, so I need to tell these stories. So please, I want you to tell us, are you scared of death? Are you scared? Well, not exactly scared of death, but I'm afraid to die in important moments. For me, one of the most important moments in my life is when I'm about to publish a work, a formal book, a short story, cartoons, because I've always felt that writing is not a place that was allowed for me to be in. I was an outsider. I had to fight for my place and to fight to understand that, yes, I do belong to that place. So I'm in a hurry. I'm in a hurry all the time because unlike other authors that have been able to publish at their younger age, well, and great that they were able to publish when they were younger, not that I'm not young, but my first publication, Flor de Gumi, was when I was 31 years old, and I really, really felt that I would never publish. Because socially, and I mean, nothing helped or supported for me to publish my book and or finish my book, to finish a book, to publish a book and see that people read your book is a way not only to be resistant, activist, but also a construction, the construction of something else. Something else that I'm still working on, trying to understand. Fear of death is not because of death itself, but death when I'm about to speak. And there are many out there that don't want or don't like the fact that a woman like myself can speak out. But I do speak out because I'm stubborn. And I like to be disobedient. Mar Becker. I wanted to talk about something else, an insight that I had, because we know that things were published about feminine literature, that label, which, I mean, we're not stuck to this label here. Yes, of course, it's important in your work. You are women characters, but it's not what defines you. So we're here to talk about language. And I remember that there is an essay, a classic essay by Virginia Woolf in her feminist writings, in which she criticizes how these labels trap you as a woman writer. And she wants something else. She wants freedom. She wants women to be able to emancipate and transcend, especially in the context of urbanities, which is where she comes from, Virginia Woolf, and putting things in a context of hierarchy. And when we talk about Mar Becker, we talk about the domestic worker, the seamstress, women's professions. And Virginia Woolf said, forget it, forget everything about women's profession. I'm exaggerating.
Well, you know, I came to Paraty and I had an old sneakers. It had a little hole in it, and I said, I'm going to use it because I want to. And now I'm wearing these shoes that I didn't want to use. But then I got to the hotel, and I came using that because I wanted to sew it here. I brought, you know, a needle and line and thread. And the first movement I did here in this city was not the text. It was sewing. Because this really shows us the place where the word comes from, where we bring our inspiration. Someone the other day asked me during an interview, who are the authors you like, writers? And I talked about Murilo Mendes, the Hilda Hilst, and the whole set of writers that we get to know in school, the ones we read in school. But I wanted to explore a little bit more the way I write, and it really is a source of inspiration from where we would build different professions, different areas where women belonged. But these women in my writings, they try to infiltrate, permeate. It's as if they were always there, supposedly or theoretically silenced and peaceful, but trying to have some underlying scheme, doing things in a hidden way. And so when the word becomes poetry and considering the limits of what we can say and almost touching what we are able to say, is able to shed some light to our role as women. So this whole idea of sewing, this whole rhythm, this rite of sewing, it's almost a silent ritual, so that I can bring the women who come with me, how they support me. Who are these women? Apparently women that will not speak but have a voice, but that do speak in their muteness. They come with me here to talk to you.
When we were having dinner together last night for today, I looked like a Gracie woman and opened my notebook and jot things down. And Mar said something, and I want to talk about this. and ask you, what do you think about this? Mar said this when Monique said that her mom had a super skill, which is to, when she eats fish, she says what fish it is. Her mom has this super skill. Mar said there's a lot of authority about what your body knows. And I wrote this down because I want her to talk about this. There's a lot of authority in what your body knows. And the word authority struck me. And when Mar said this last night when we were having dinner together, I said, okay, this made me think about our skills, the skills we have, but we don't understand and feel. To understand is very detached. I mean, what it is to understand a skill, what it is to understand a body. And this brings me back to when I'm writing. The idea of writing. First of all, this is how I think. At home, I have a table. And this table that I have at home is a door. Actually, I bought a door because I wanted a huge table, but I didn't want to pay the expensive price of a huge table. I bought a door and I made it a table. So when I write, I think this door is my first table for this body that was not used to sitting at a table with a very large table, and now I am able to do this. I am a writer. This body here was used to writing in the bathroom, hidden in the editor room, or in the bus, riding home, hiding, anywhere where this body had to do something else. So I see that so many things that my mom had in her mouth, in her in her taste, these skills. When she eats fish, she knows what fish it is. This body that has written in so many places is capable of doing so many things that I'm not scared of anything else. What really scares me now is not to do what I do, but I will always do this anywhere I am.
When I think about a body, I remember when you wrote down what I said, and I said, what is she writing? What is she taking notes over there? She was writing down everything. So now we're here. Now I got why she was taking notes. So when I think about a body, in my writing, in my text, and this authority over a body, I guess there is an origin to all this. I cannot separate where my body begins and when writing ends, when the writing starts and my body begins. Many things that I develop. I have a journal that I put everything. I write everything there in my journal, and I write down many things with regards to my body, to this approach, this way of seeing, things. This other day, I heard that women with long bones is something good. It's good to have long bones. That's what I heard, because throughout evolution, they could reach higher things that were further away from them. So I saw a picture of me, and I could see, and I saw that my elbow looked like a spearhead. And I said, well, maybe my long bones are just too long, maybe a bit dangerous. So this is the type of thing that I like to write about. And then I saw that diastema, it was something seductive, but mine is lower. So I like this kind of fracture that my own body projects on what I write. So, you're going to now, label yourself or fit yourself in a certain way in a text, and then that's it. So, what seemed to be beautiful, or something that seemed to be something you could fit in a certain little box, is broken away. It will break away with the expectations So this kind of dislocation, just transference is something I like to do. This is what I put in my text, this kind of thing. And today, this morning, during the program in another partner house, I was talking about the activities that we saw and see in the different partner houses of Flip and what women do and have done all the time. So when I go to Rio Grande do Sul on Sundays, with the state I'm from, I see women making mayo, and so this whole ritual. There are all these hands involved, something of tasting involved in the process, and everything is also seen in how you develop a text. There's something of a manual labor in that, to think with your hands, to refer to Marília, this maneuvering of the text, of whatever you're doing. And I could stay here, I could stay all night talking about this topic I love so much.
And there's another thing that I read in one of your interviews, Monique, that reminded me. I mean, we've spent so much time drinking from the classical authors and then detaching ourselves. Virginia Woolf, A Room of Your Own. What you were saying, Monique, that you didn't have a room, you didn't have a table, you had to write whenever you were. And somewhere I read that you said, in my case, fiction leaves the sacred, closed, illuminated place and goes to the field, to the encounter. And encounters are is a topic that is dear to you both. And Monique blames her career. She's an anthropologist. She has a degree in anthropology, and she said, "Oh, I like to research because I'm an anthropologist, and everything that they talk about and write about becomes a story." But what about fiction? I mean, leaving the romantic style or the romantic image of having a room of your own, your desk with fantastic temperature and pressure conditions. But it's not what you have. Ideal navigation conditions that do not exist. Do not exist. Yes, ideal navigation conditions. It doesn't exist. Yeah, I loved it. I loved it that you have exposed my real truth. Yes, I love to research. I love to research because I'm an anthropologist. But actually, I love to gossip. That's what I love. That's what I love to do, gossip. Gossip in literature. I love to know how things work. When I was a little girl, I loved to go with my granddad, that he liked to disassemble a radio, a battery radio, and then he would put everything back together. And I said, "What are you doing that for?" And then today I understand why he did this. The crazy thing in his head that he loved to do this, which is a sort of craziness that I also have, that has inspired me. I want to know how the world works. I want to be near a different perspective or vision other than my own. I want to leave this selfish place. Of course, the self is very important. We can never rid ourselves of the self. I'm not a psychologist, but of course, it is very important for me to understand that I don't know anything. Not to know interests me, because if I'm sure of something, I will make less progress in my fiction. If I'm lost, I feel that I'm on the right path. When I wrote Beheaded, I felt totally lost. My publisher is here. He knows I'm telling the truth. But when I was totally lost within myself, there was a certainty that told me that I was on the right path for the book to become what I hadn't imagined it would become. So I'm fascinated by trying to understand. And in the encounter with the other person is where the literature I write is born. This space, the room of her own that Virginia Woolf mentioned, is essential because it made me understood that it's not only a room, but a notebook of my own, a door of my own, a knob in my house of my own, my first small apartment that I rented, being able to afford it with my writing, my new pen, the impulse to write, the impulse to deconstruct the radio player. So fiction writing is born and comes from a little Monique, the little girl that wants to know how the world works. I want to listen to conversations on the other side of the door and eavesdrop.
Qual que era a mesma pergunta?
What was the question? Something that will leave what is sacred, a type of literature that will leave the classical sacred place and goes, into the field, hands-on experience.
O texto.
The whole movement or process of writing is part of my twin sisters who also wrote, and our mother would also dress us the same with pigtails and laces and stuff and bows. It was like the same body with two heads, a two-headed being, and we would write and read together. She would go to the library, I would go to the library. She would read Clarice and I would, and so we exchanged many things. So they happened like in a symbiosis. It was difficult to understand where one started and the other one ended. So I guess the writing was the first attempt when I was 12, 13 to say, now I have a body, my own body. It was no longer a door. I'm not Marielle. I am not my sister. And maybe I would use a different clothes. I would try to become unique. And I guess the text was this little spot I had for myself, this little corner I had for myself. I was innocent enough to think that this place would not be violated. I only understood that it could not be violated, that it could be violated when I published for the first time. And all the different ways of seeing my writing from other people, understanding that my text could be hurt, sometimes by a positive, sometimes by a negative way of seeing, depreciating what I wrote. And from everywhere, the text no longer belongs to you, to that intimate part, my little tiny little house that belonged only to me. So this is when I finally understood, and Saul, the level of porosity a text has. It's like limestone or something like that. That is very something that will. So this is the language is an attempt to find another person, and the language allows us to find something else. So there was bereavement, but at the same time was epiphany. You cannot be surpassed by other things, by other people, by other ways of seeing us. So this is in the long journey of the wind that you're able to see or pronounce a word, a sound, where you have your scars, the scars that belong to the word itself. This is, I try and I fail, and then I try again and I fail again to try and find the noite devorada, the night, the devoured night, which is where I write, from where I write.
I forgot to say in the beginning, but you can ask questions. I think you have slips of paper, and just to ask your question, and I'll get them, and when we wrap up, we'll ask your questions. I wanted to ask you to read the excerpts of your work, to leave the ethereal. Please, Monique, can you start with beheaded? Can I stand up? I prefer to stand up. I don't know if you're allowed to, but I let you. I love to stand up when I read my work. We didn't move to the occupied land right away. My father was the guinea pig. In the first few days, with, he built a kind of shack with the help of Allison. The floor was just dirt, like other shacks, but that was a forbidden word. Alfredo even hit me in the mouth with the back of his hand when I said it. I said the word shack. Alfredo felt a kind of disgust when he realized that he was just like any other people who occupied those lands. He really cared about them, but he wanted to be someone different. He always wanted to be a savior, a prophet. He didn't want to be seen as the master, but as a messiah. To this day, I wonder if he really wanted to start a family or if this arrangement was a way of feeling less lonely. Be able to constantly make mistakes, knowing that we have the unconditional support. How nice. Some men want more than purchasing power. They want to be worshipped as saints. Alfredo built a power relationship with people without them realizing that they were being used for his dream. He was careless with the result of his actions, but I don't think he was intentionally evil in those actions. There was a purity in his actions. And when I say it, it is not to praise him like a saint. That was somebody else, at least for a while. He really was good for the occupation. I always felt restlessness in front of the figure of the saint. You ask the saint for something, and if the offer is requested and comes true, you give him something in return. Joanna said that was benevolence. I call it commercial transaction. It is not the saint's fault. It is fault of the society that created the saint. Give and take, bro. Money's in charge. This business of the time being the fabric of life is only so in the mouth of a poet. I really wanted to believe in poetry, but poetry doesn't pay rent in Brazil. Dad, Alfredo, was a working class guy who thought that by building a giant shack and starting to help all those people, he would become a community leader. Seeing people happy fed a part of him that said, I am good, I have value, I'm not just anybody. When Altair raised his arm and said in the megaphone, this is the governor here. This land belongs to the people, Manawadas. The people of the north would say, who is the leader here? He would be smiling, ready to say, it's me, I'm the leader. And what's your name, my son? Alfredo Sosa, your servant. Dad said that when you introduce yourself to an authority, you have to say after your name, your servant. That this is how his father taught him how to show respect. On my first day in school, in a new school, the teacher asked my name and I said, Saul, your servant. No, don't say that, darling. But it's I respect you, miss. Don't you ever say that again. Do you understand? I pretended I did. And when I think about my father's fantasy, I know two things for sure. What a fool. Good man. My dear dad.
Gente, degola é tudo isso.
Beheaded is all of that and much more. You know, literature, when you want to chew it, eat it, that's what beheaded is. And before Mar tells her poem, tell us about Degola. Introduce the book for us all. Well, the book takes place in an occupation in Manaus. It tells the story of Sol, the character that grows up in this occupation. She comes from Santarém to the state of Pará in Manaus in the Amazon region. Her family goes there in search of a place to live, to work, attracted by the free zone area with that promise of progress. And what is progress? in itself, and what it is to grow in an occupation, occupied territory, which is unfortunately a very current topic. This book is placed in 1990, 1995. So since the 80s, we are talking about occupations, occupied land. I was born in 1888, and before I was born, this was a fact, a reality. I was a child that lived in these occupations, but I don't have recollections. I have flashes of what it was in the past. And I want to tell a story that is not my own, because it's not autobiographical, but it's mine, not only because I lived in an occupation when I was a child, but also because it is something that bothers me. That place, every time somebody asks, I mean, the question I'm asked most, is this autobiographical? Is this an autobiography? Everybody thinks that everything I write is an autobiography. It is in the sense that it's the political dimension of the choice, because I chose this topic. It is not any topic to talk about migration, occupation. It is because it is a topic that is dear to me, not to me, myself, individually. I write about topics that interest me because of my personal things that bother me, but also my collective things that bother me. I don't feel alone. I'm part of a collective, a territory, a place where I'm connected with the community. I cannot say that I feel full happiness or freedom because people from my territory do not experience full happiness or freedom. It is not a place where I can shout. This is a place where I can shout and express my anger, and I can do this in my fiction writing, even without knowing where the book will go. I just hope it'll go somewhere.
Becker, I was listening to Monique about self-fiction, autobiography or biography. This is something that is a question that always comes to us. Oh, have you experienced this or that? And it's interesting because, creativity, writing a word, and this way we write has no commitment to a fact, to what actually happened. Or sometimes, to invent something says more about your life than actually narrate what a fact. And I feel that it's interesting because when the texts come back to us, Vila Anis and places that have to do with where I live, Passo Fundo, and I said, oh, my mother will say, this is not what happened. This is not how it happened. You lied. And I said, yeah, I did. You're right. I did lie. I lied a lot. And it's good to lie. But what do you think, Mom? We call her, we have show respect to our mother, called her Senhora in Portuguese. And I tried to instigate. My idea is to say, what if? What if? What if? And what wasn't said? What are your hatreds, your rages? Or when you asked about the texts, I was thinking, I have to create a path, a journey. I'm going to start with Cova. Cova Profunda is good. The Cova Profunda, a boca das Mulheres Estranhas. So love and desire are side by side with hatred. It's a bit ironic, something that is undigested that you have there. And then Noite Devorada. Something, let's see if it works. I have my cell phone if I can't remember it by heart. This beloved man ironed his shirt Understand the softness of the cloth, the way the fit draws a body. Recognize, reach with your fingers a confession that is still alive, of linen. Guess the stature of the shoulders, lines of bones and muscles, the current of the blood, the jugular. Through the white foresee a course in red. And then calculate by the collar which point of the neck you should pressure in order to extend the pleasure. And even though, of course, if you don't need it, then to strike a dry blow to make it seem accidental. This was a true homemaker.
Passando!
Ironing the shirt there, nice and calm, thinking about striking the blow. I said, when I got this shirt, my mother was a seamstress. Do you know? You can know a person through how they sew. These women know a lot of things. They know your body by heart. And also the next one from Kova. I'm not going to give you any spoilers here. I'm just going to read the text. Now, I'm all serenity and pose. Loosen eyes, hands on knees, waiting until it stops dripping. The toes on the crochet rug. Don't rest on the floor. Do not tread on the slant of man. Don't leave looks as witnesses. There are such pure moments in the life of an unfaithful woman. There are hours of such grace that they seem just her and God. This is my unfaithful woman. And then I would like to thank Tarso, who's right in front of me. I bothered you so much, Tarso, to get here and to write. It's good to have a home, a warm home, such a dear editor and publisher. Approach love without too many questions. Grab the unthought, untouched yet. Come close with no question, as discovering in time a time without words. Afraid of, if called love, that bird would get scared. Everything is anticipation in the whisper, that suspended territory caught in the indecision between saying and touching. Delicacy also devours in its own way, making love a home. Build it up as you build a place. Take shelter in it. Go into love. Take refuge in its trenches as those who come deadly wounded, those who suddenly understand that life is short, but love is long. Make it your hand that reaches for mine. Go back to a first act of mercy, blood marking our door mantles. Make love a childhood hiding place, a crack in the wood, a dim light, a bird. Making love a home, make it wing.
Mas acho que vocês gostaram mais do...
But I guess you liked Kova a bit more. Kova, pit or grave, in a free translation.
I'm relieved that you read out loud my favorite poem. We're getting questions here, but I need a little help. No, I just wanted to say something off the record. Oh my God, it's so great to have a publisher devoted to publishing poetry, as Mar mentioned. It's a privilege to have an editor that specializes in poetry in a country like Brazil. Tarso, congratulations, the curator of the edition, and Diamante publisher, and this cycle of poems have these covers. They are collectible. Mar showed us this fantastic green as in hope, and then you have this one, which is at night. I said, okay.
I said, well, let's try another cover. And then we dress it, we undress it. You can dress it, you can undress it, you can be, it's a bit erotic. And also there's a night, there's a mist devouring the book from outside in. So it was a very happy choice we did, and I was very pleased with it. I said, all of a sudden, let's talk more about covers, let's do this. So we were talking about the covers, and it was so interesting. People, and Tarsha is like already, oh my God, here comes trouble. Anyways, it's my compliment and my thank you as a reader of poetry.
And what I have here is a question. I'll ask you this question because I think it has to do with what we're doing. Somebody remembered that Mar talked about the fact that poetry is like a porous stone, a pumice stone. How can we know when we finish a poem? Well, I'm the worst person to tell you that.
Because poetry never ends to me. The women, the woman who was ironing the shirt, is a text that said, Leah was a woman, and I wanted to be a little bit Leah. And I said, this man I loved, and already published, I already changed this text. I think this word has much to do with what is lived, that moment, that voice, that instant. And I feel an extreme difficulty of holding myself in that specific role. But it's curious enough because my experience of closing a poem is a bit pragmatic. If a couple of months go by, 1 year goes by, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, and I haven't touched it, and I said, well, maybe it's ready to go. I don't need it to tweak it further. Maybe you don't need to be, rummaging that whole thing in your mind, because I have millions of versions, and then there's something of trying to spoil something that is already good. So it's interesting. And the person who asked this question said, try in your life, in your practical life, to see if your text, in rereading it, if it feels finished, if it will revisit you with this this sense of being finished. If you go to bed and it's in your mind and you're dreaming about it, it means it's bothering you. It means you haven't finished. Many of my poems go to bed with me, so to speak, and then I know I have to rewrite. It's difficult to understand where it ends. I've been trying to do this exercise, mostly trial and error.
And this table is called All Forms. We're talking about different creative processes. Do you want to talk about this, Monique? When do you finish writing? Well, every time anybody asks me that, oh my God, it seems like, I don't know. I don't know how to answer. I get nervous because the small prose writings that I post, especially in social media, I put in the subtitles, new text, because I don't name them. I don't write names. And people say, what a beautiful poem. And well, there is a place. I mean, I'm not interested in labeling anything, but to answer what you asked about when do I finish writing, before I would say that you finish when you give up. But today, no, I changed my mind. I think that I know when I have to stop. And I agree with Mar when she says, if you go to bed and you're thinking about this in your head, and if there's something that's bothering you, and it will bother me and keep on bothering me. So if it depends on what I feel, I will never end because it will bother me forever. So I become obsessed, and I said, okay, I've had enough with this obsession. Now let's go to the next. I'm always obsessed about something. So it's just to change my obsession subject. So it's not that I'm giving up on that text. It's that, okay, I've had enough of being obsessed about this text. This text has been analyzed deeply. I mean, it is what it is, so I will change my obsession subject. Yes, obsession in the form, in the content, in the sound. Exactly. Well, I was thinking about talking about poetry, and you're a visual artist, to talk about images, poetic, artistic, visuals. Monique has a notebook. I didn't bring it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But what do you write down in your book? You write down sketches and drawings? Well, for me, field notebooks are a method that I discovered in my master's degree in anthropology, and I started to understand what it is to work with ethnography, what it is to go to the field with your notebook. It's a notebook that would really be going beyond the notebook I used to have with just words or phrases. It's text. The notebooks I have today, I don't write phrases or texts down, or I don't write any rehearsals or scraps. It is my guide. It is my memory. Because I forget things. So I need to write things down in a material. I, of course, have my notebook and my cell phone, but the notebook in my cell phone is a different medium. My notebook in the field is where I draw, where I talk about the topics I want to talk about. If I interview somebody, I will write it down, talk about their tastes. I'm not a drawer, a painter. I work with, I mean, it's not illustration what I do. It's more a drawing. I love to be disobedient. So it's a scrapbook. And if I talk with somebody, with several people, if I want to create a character, to draw those persons, it's not an attempt of drawing a realistic illustration. I draw to see. I draw the person to see deep in that face, in that gesture. I'm not interested in portraying the person exactly, because this doesn't exist, of course. A realistic drawing, I mean, with a hand here, that concept, I mean, I'm not interested in that. My notebook is a roadmap. It's a map. It's where I write down my color array for the book. Flor de Gumi is a book in green. Beheaded, it's earthy. It's earthy. The palette is brown, earthy, and bluish. You will understand when you read it. Everything is there, recorded, written down in my notebook. So when I sit down and write, pictures in newspaper archives that lived in occupations, pictures of myself as a little girl in Manaus. I put everything in my notebook. I don't have blank pages. When I see a blank page in my notebook or in a notebook, I have my road map, my guide, where I can go back and take a look at my obsessions, my research work. I can write and draw chickens for one whole month. For one chapter, I will write on chickens and hens. It is my guide. It is the notebook where I find myself if I feel I'm lost. There are no blank pages. I have my books. A small classroom in a class in creative writing. We're getting great questions. One question here by Nanni Ferset, if I said it right. I want to hug her then. I already did. I already hugged her. Becker says, I had to learn to love you with hate. Monique says, make hate have a sense. Hate seems to be destructive, but you give it another dimension. How is it that you hate? And she writes a comment. She says that she wrote a poem and a short story because I read you two fantastic writers, a writer that I admire. Great to have you here. How it is that you hate. Mar, do you want to start?
Noite, night, is a book that brings rage, hatred, but it talks with a very soft voice. So this hatred is like a point of a fugue, a point, an escape. There's something from hatred in your heart, something that I've been trying to produce as a project in writing, which is a hatred that is hidden, that is like if something was shutting your mouth of that hatred, but you hear it. You hear it. And this is a result of my family, story, history. This whole idea, those have heard me about this. I am a daughter of a grandmother who was killed. They said she committed suicide, but it isn't true. I never met her. So it's inevitable. Women in my texts will deal with actual danger, with a threat that is very close to us. So you have to learn how to read in between the lines, to talk in between the lines. You have to learn how to iron and kill in a way that will seem accidental. You have to learn become a chameleon, to hide yourself, to disguise yourself, and to share the night with robbers, and just go through your house in the still of the night. And this is where my text goes and takes me. It's difficult to talk or speak out loud. It's difficult to put your voice to it because there's an actual risk, because I have wolves watching me sleep, and all of a sudden they want to eat me. So this is heart that is beating, and the wolves should protect me, but all of a sudden that heart becomes something tasty for the wolves. So then you are scared someone can eat you. That small body will be eaten. This place of frailty. So I had to learn how to develop a language, a tongue even, that would work in a different realm or level, something that could be disguised easily, something that could maybe walk around the house without anyone noticing, to be invisible, to be unheard, to be, a very soft voice. And poetry becomes this two-faced language. And this is why I tried to develop a body through writing. I'm not sure if it works very well, if I resulted, but I received many reports of other women who also developed texts and strategies that were able to say something. And I consider that, I believe that we tried to kill this woman, my grandmother. We tried to kill her, and she was killed, through when she was actually killed, and then how people reported her death. And today I write her name. Canção de Ruída has Manuela, her name, all around, and we have it in Portugal. So it's very difficult to kill a woman, and then this woman gives a grandchild that is a fighter. So be careful with what you do, because something will change. But we do this here inside this protected area. But hatred, I'm telling you, it isn't easy. It isn't easy. Hatred is difficult. I feel that when I go back to my mother, for instance, it was very difficult to do away with this taboo within the family, and going back and talking to my mother about this. And I would say, well, in my text I say, we don't have pictures of Manuel. And then my mother said, then when I go back home, I see a picture of Manuel. She reintegrated Manuela and the story of our family in back. So in a very biased way, there's a work being done. How many stories could operate a change in the same way? Maybe I don't know if we could talk about writing. I'm not going to say writing in a therapeutic manner, but writing will bring about a rupture, fracture, and what is considered to be done in a certain way will be rebuilt, reconstructed in another way. And within the women of my family, this has become important, has become paramount. Today, there is a hairdresser, there's a cultural space, and you have the Hermes magazine, and we have poetry and Ana Maria review and all these books. I'm there in the group of the hairdresser group, and you have no idea what it means. Because it has become an environment. Because my mother is a hairdresser. She used to be a butcher, she was a seamstress, and now she's a hairdresser. She has cut, she has sewn, and now she would break everything down, sew everything, and now she cuts hairs. So she included me in her hairdresser WhatsApp group, and I said, oh, I want to do a raffle, and I don't know how to use the raffle app. So I'm the bingo. I'm the girl from the bingo. And so with all the women in the hairdresser, and then sometimes I bring poetry to that WhatsApp group. And so that's where gossip comes in, where people talking about, saying things, and then maybe a recipe for a cake, and then a poem. So this is where I work. Even my hatred, I'm able to elaborate on my hatred. Even gossip that Monique was talking about this. Yes, I love a good gossip too, just like Monique. So this is where poetry becomes entwined with life. So it's that deep rooting in life itself.
For me, hatred has always been present in my writing, but I only realized that hatred was hatred because when I was a little girl, one of my biggest dreams was to have somebody look at me and say that I was a brave girl. I wanted to be a boy. I wanted to be a boy. If you wanted to be brave, you had to be a boy. So most of the things that I did, most of the weeds and trees that I cut down, and my fights, my books, what I stood for, they have hatred in them. But if I were a man, I would be called a brave guy. But since I'm a woman, I'm always angry. I'm always angry. I'm always fed up. But we're very brave. We're really very brave in our writing. And I want to give my characters this characteristic. I love to have characters that are the narrators of my book. Because when we talk about migration, for instance, men that decide to migrate, decide where they're going, and they tell their story. And I choose a girl to tell her story. So hatred is transformed into that, into an action. It is not any type of hatred. It is not destructive. It is a hatred that reconstructs, rebuilds, destroying in a different way. Yeah, I'm angry. I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off all the time. I'm pissed. And I think that we have to be angry. We do need to be angry. I would love to write books about other topics. Once, somebody said, "Why do you write such sad books?" I dream about writing a happy book. But I'm happy to talk about what bothers me. It is a type of happiness that is a revenge. Hatred shouldn't be denied, has to be lived out. Do something with this anger, with this rage, with this hatred. It's a different kind of effervescence. I don't want to pretend I'm not pissed. I am pissed. Well, we're drawing to the end of our conversation here. Yeah, I know, I know. I mean, it's magical up here. I think we have time for one last question. Anna Claudia's asking, which was the biggest discomfort that the act of creating literature caused, and how did this change you? Well, we've been talking about this all along, but just as a wrap up, would you like to answer? You go first, Mar.
Baixe aqui.
Oh my God, I'm going to say something stupid, I'm sure. I'm going to make a confession to all of you. It was always very difficult to me to get in touch with another person's understanding of me and some of my poetry. And because it's ambiguous, it might be a different meaning, ambiguity. And like women are all the same, todas iguais, women are all the same. And when I bring this to, when it's read, these are not attacks, but what you're doing is a disservice to women. And I try to explain to the person that it isn't. But still, that's my greatest discomfort, to know that once my text goes outside myself, it is no longer mine. There's nothing I can do anymore. And the people will say whatever they want. It's this or that. They will see it as irony or as a denouncing something, and that will change be read according to that person's own story. And I can't control that, and this is difficult. I want to say, give it back to me. Unread it. It's mine. You're not entitled to this. Unread it. But I can't do that. So on a daily basis, I'm working on my well-being, my spirit, to try to deal with it. Let it go. Don't, so that nothing will disturb me. So that inward mantra to let it go, because we need to let go of our text. But it's complicated to come here in front of all of you, because it's as if we were bringing an unfinished work, but it isn't. But this is what I was able to do today, so this is what I have today. This is what life brought for today. Tomorrow will be a different thing. And possibly in other programs or roundtables, I will say something again, and I will undo what I said. I would unsay what I said. And I understand this text. Tomás Albornoz Neves told me, Mar, he's part of Noite Devorada. It's like when you take your temperature. You take it at that given moment, and that is the text at that moment. And then it's going to be something different. But I felt a relief when he said this is an ongoing work. If you understand like something different, that's his or her own issue. So it's your issue. It doesn't belong to me. I have nothing to do with that. But maybe if you want to come and talk to me, you can also write to me. And because with a little bit of kindness, we will be able to solve things.
And what about you? Well, you'll have to repeat the question, because I was so abstracted with Mar that I forgot. I was hypnotized. What is the discomfort that the act of creating literature caused in you, and how did it change you? I'm always uncomfortable. I'm comfortable all the time when I'm writing. I'm never comfortable. Comfort does not exist. When they say, oh, I love it, it's the thing I love the most. Yeah, okay, but it's also the thing I hate the most. I love it and I hate it. Likewise, because I'm always uncomfortable. I'm never comfortable. And not in the sense that I don't like what I write, or I'm scared of what they'll think of it. I'll tell you something that will sound rather snob, but it's not, which is, I don't care. I don't care what people think of what I write. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I love it that you love it. I'm happy. It's fantastic. but it's not something that will define my writing. I'm more interested in really fulfilling my desire if I'm happy with what I'm doing, if I'm following the path that I need to follow. So to deal with this uncomfort and accept it. There will always be a part in my life, and I'll spend months in this discomfort, 1 year in this discomfort with this topic. But at the same time, when it's here, printed out, materialized in this book, I say, oh, wow, this is my place of comfort. It's short, because I'll go back and start writing something else and I'll feel uncomfortable once again. I don't want to spend my time in discomfort and waste my time thinking about what you will think about what I write. No, I don't care. I will think about another book and I'll be uncomfortable again. But I'll love it if you love it. Brilliant. Okay, time is up. They will be around the corner signing their books. Let's give a hand to Mar and Monique.